Montelupich Prison in Kraków was never meant to be a place of justice. Built under Nazi occupation as a Gestapo torture chamber, its thick stone walls had absorbed the screams of Polish resistance fighters and political prisoners for years. By January 1948, 3 years after the war's end, those walls would witness something different: the formal execution of Nazi perpetrators condemned by their own crimes. Early on the morning of January 24th, in the cold darkness of that same prison, Therese Brandl walked toward her death. She was 45 years old. 6 years earlier, she had been one of the most feared figures in the women's camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. But how did this woman, born in peacetime Bavaria to ordinary parents, become someone whom survivors would never forget? The story of Therese Brandl forces us to confront a difficult historical question. How did an ordinary young woman from an ordinary German family become a perpetrator in one of history's most systematic crimes? This is not a question about monsters or aberrations. It is a question about how institutions transform people and how individual choices, even small ones, can lead to participation in atrocity. Therese Brandl was born on February 1st, 1902, in Staudach-Egerndach, a small Bavarian village in southeastern Germany. She grew up in the chaotic years between the two world wars, the humiliation of German defeat in 1918, the hyperinflation that destroyed savings overnight, the grinding poverty of the 1920s. By most accounts, Brandl's early life was neither exceptionally tragic nor particularly privileged. She was one of many working-class Germans trying to survive economic collapse. In the 1930s, as the Nazi Party promised order, jobs, and national restoration, Brandl joined the German Labor Front, the organization that absorbed most German workers. She was not yet committed to Nazi ideology. She was seeking work and stability in an unstable time. In March 1940, Brandl entered Ravensbrück concentration camp in northern Germany, not as a prisoner, but as a guard trainee. She was recruited into the SS Gefolge, the female auxiliaries who served the SS. Ravensbrück was the largest women's concentration camp in the Nazi system, designed to hold political prisoners, Jehovah's Witnesses, Roma women, and others the regime deemed threats. Under the training of Oberaufseherin Johanna Langefeld, Brandl learned her role: to maintain order, enforce discipline, and execute commands without question. She quickly rose in rank to become a Reportaufseherin, responsible for counting women at roll call and administering punishments. The system was systematic. The ideology was clear. The hierarchy was absolute. Brandl was no longer simply seeking work. She was now a functionary in the Nazi state's machinery of control. In March 1942, Therese Brandl was one of several SS women assigned to Auschwitz-Birkenau in occupied Poland. Her early duties included watching over women in the laundry and sorting sheds, work that required vigilance but did not directly confront prisoners with selections or gas chambers. But Auschwitz was a different kind of camp than Ravensbrück. It was not simply a place of imprisonment and forced labor. It was a killing center. By the time Brandl arrived, the systematic murder program was already underway. 7 months later, in October 1942, she was transferred to the newly opened Auschwitz II at Birkenau, where the death rate was catastrophic. Here, Brandl rose through the ranks to become an Erstaufseherin, a first guard, working directly under Maria Mandl, the powerful Lagerführerin who controlled all women's camp selections. According to survivors' testimonies and trial records, Brandl participated in the apparatus of death. She was present during roll calls that could last for hours in freezing weather. She carried out punishment orders. Most critically, she participated in selections, the process by which camp doctors and administrators decided who would be sent to the gas chambers. In the summer of 1943, her good conduct was formally recognized. She received a medal from the Reich. That medal, awarded for her service in the camp, was also a marker of her complicity. Survivors later testified about Brandl's role at Birkenau. They described her presence during selections, her participation in the process that condemned thousands to death. She was not the most notorious guard at Auschwitz. Figures like Irma Grese became more infamous. But Brandl was present. She made choices. According to court records and historical testimony, she participated in selections of women and children designated for murder. She implemented the camp's brutal discipline. She was part of the system that murdered over 1 million people at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The exact number of those she directly helped to condemn will never be known. What is documented is that she held authority in a system organized for. By late 1944, the Soviet army was advancing from the east. The Third Reich, which had promised a 1,000-year empire, was beginning to disintegrate. In November 1944, Therese Brandl was transferred away from Auschwitz-Birkenau to the Dachau subcamp at Mühldorf in southern Bavaria. She was demoted from Erstaufseherin to Aufseherin. The authority she had wielded was slipping away. As the American army advanced in spring 1945, Mühldorf was evacuated. Brandl fled on April 27th, just days before Allied troops arrived. She tried to disappear into the chaos of Germany's final collapse. On August 29, 1945, American military police arrested Therese Brandl in the Bavarian mountains where she had fled to hide. She was taken to a holding camp for questioning. For 3 months, she was interrogated about her role in the camps. She did not confess. Like many SS women captured after the war, she denied the extent of her participation, claimed she was simply following orders, insisted she had treated prisoners decently. The American authorities documented her case and prepared her for trial. The system of post-war justice, though imperfect and limited in scope, was beginning to function. In November 1947, Therese Brandl was tried before Poland's Supreme National Tribunal in Kraków. She was one of 40 defendants, 35 men and 5 women, who had served at Auschwitz. The trial was held in the city that had once held hundreds of thousands of Jews before the Holocaust. The court heard testimony from survivors, reviewed Nazi administrative records, and examined the hierarchy of command at Auschwitz. Brandl was charged with crimes against humanity. Specifically, she was convicted of participating in selections, of helping to decide which women and children would be sent to their deaths. She did not plead guilty. None of the 5 female guards tried that day admitted to their crimes. The prosecution presented evidence. The court deliberated. On December 22, 1947, Therese Brandl was found guilty and sentenced to death. She was not executed immediately. She would wait in Montelupich Prison for 63 days. On January 24, 1948, the verdicts were carried out. At Montelupich Prison in Kraków, Therese Brandl and Maria Mandl, her former superior, were led to the gallows. Brandl was executed by hanging. She died in the same prison that had been used by the Gestapo during Nazi occupation to torture Polish civilians and resistance fighters. The war was over. The system she had served was defeated. The authority she had wielded was gone. She was 45 years old, 2 weeks shy of her 46th birthday. In the end, she faced consequences that most perpetrators never did. Of the approximately 7,000 SS personnel who served at Auschwitz in some capacity, only 63 were ever tried. Therese Brandl was among them. Therese Brandl's story raises questions that historians still grapple with. Was she a monster, or was she a person who made choices within a monstrous system? The historical record suggests the latter. She was not born cruel. She was not uniquely evil. She was someone who was gradually incorporated into an apparatus of genocide, who accepted authority, who carried out orders, and who benefited from the ranks and status the system offered her. The Holocaust did not require monsters. It required people, ordinary people, who would participate in extraordinary evil. That may be the most troubling lesson of Brandl's life. Not that evil takes dramatic forms, but that it often wears the face of the ordinary. The trial at Kraków was one of the first efforts by the international community to hold perpetrators accountable for crimes against humanity. It was limited. Most escaped justice, but it represented a commitment to the principle that even those who followed orders could be held responsible for their choices. Therese Brandl's execution marked a moment when the world said that serving in the machinery of genocide was not a defense. It was a crime. And for those who participated, there would be consequences.